And here we go. All right. For those of you who are just now joining us on the video, what we are doing is we are talking about compliance gaining strategies. Okay. So the compliance gaining strategy number one is offering a reward. You do something for me, I'll give you something in return. And the second one is to threaten punishment. So let's take a look at the reminders up here today. Reminder number one is that you've got to take the quiz number one, or you will be dropped from the course. Okay, that's an or else. So oftentimes the threatening means you do this, you comply with my wishes, you go along with me, or you do what I ask you to do, or else you're going to be dropped. All right, if you miss taking an assignment, you're going to get a 0. So orientation quiz number 2, if you fail to do that assignment, you will have a big fat 0 in the grade book. All right, so threatened a punishment. Now some of these may seem very like, okay, Ms. Kate, no duh, but it's important to recognize that there is language, there is terminology and theories associated with each one of these. If you are a manager or a supervisor, and your strategy or tactic that you use all the time to get your employees to do something is this method, you're going to have high turnover. You're going to have very unhappy employees. You're going to have employees that are going to steal from you because they feel like they got something coming to them. You're going to have employees who are going to badmouth you all the time, all places, whenever they can. All right? So we often look at this in terms of a manager's style of leadership, you know, the big stick, versus somebody who recognizes good behavior, good performance, and will reward. You know, you did such a great job last semester or last quarter with those sales, so you're getting your bonus today. Or thank you for increasing the amount of customer we have and reducing the number of customer complaints. So obviously you are taking care of our customers, and as a result of that, I'm going to give you more clients, which is going to help you with your bonus structure. Okay? So this is always really the best way to do it. I'd also tell you that people who do this more than this are what we see as positive people. So if you've heard of the analogy that some people look at a glass of water as either half empty or half full, all right? If you are a positive person, and it's going to be very important as we get into the next chapter. If you are a positive person and you see that glass as half full, you will tend to do far more of this kind of communication tactic to get people to do what you want. If you see that glass is half empty and you have a negative worldview, that's going to be your go-to. Nobody wants to work for you. Or be your kid or your student in your class. All right. The third one is expertise. Do something because I know best. Now, again, parents use this all the time. Teachers use this. I have a master's degree. I have a lot of years of study in communication. So I have 6 years of study in it versus you have 1 class, maybe 2 class. So my expertise is being brought in to get you to comply with the lessons that I give you, to learn and to utilize these lessons. Oh, but wait. Expertise is also part of world experience, life lived. So the fact that I'm old is another really good reason why I'm a good teacher for this class. 45 years happily married to a high school sweetheart. raised two children who are both in their 40s now. Both have college degrees. One has a master's degree, etc. You know, I broke the glass ceiling. So I, you know, rose up in the ranks of business. So that's expertise. And you want expertise when you are listening to somebody, because you want them to know what they're talking about so that you can trust that the information is accurate, right? The next thing is to be friendly. And you've heard kids do this on the playground all the time. So it's like, maybe even you guys have done this. If you trade your sandwich for my sandwich, because you have peanut butter and jelly and I have this yucky turkey sandwich, if we trade sandwiches, I'll be your friend forever. Yeah, okay. Well, that carries over into adulthood too. If you go to this party with me, I'll hang out with you because I want to be your friend, right? So being friendly, promising to be a friend, to be liked, or I will like you, is a strategy. It's a tactic. Okay, number 5. This one is used a lot. Debt. Oh man, you owe me. I helped you move into 2 different apartments. This is the first time I've ever asked you to help me move into my new apartment because you know I got to get out of my parents' house. And you're now telling me you don't have time? Oh no, you owe me. You owe me, right? So that's that reciprocal kind of requirement. This is where you call in the debts. If somebody has done something for you or you've done something for them, it should be equal, give and take. And this is used a lot in adulthood. Number 6 is being altruistic. And basically this means I'm going to put my needs underneath yours. So that means I'm going to put what you need or your goals or your situation first. So yeah, I really just want to stay home because I'm an introvert. I've had enough talking to people. I just want to stay home, eat ice cream, and watch a movie. But since you are my friend and you are an extrovert and you really like people, yes, I will go with you to the movie or to the park or the club or whatever it is, okay? So this is called being altruistic. I also kind of think of it as being a martyr. If you're doing it begrudgingly, yeah, I'll do it, all right, then you're just being a martyr. And people don't like that very much. If you're doing it because a person is truly ill and you truly love that person, or the person has just a real fear of doing something and needs your support, then you're going to do it. So the person's going to say to you, I am scared to death to talk to that teacher. She is a bitch, and I know she's going to just throw me under the bus. So please come with me, please. I need your support. Okay? And if you do that because you know the person's nervous, and you want to support the person, you go. Okay. Number 7 is to appeal to the other's ego. All right? This is also known as self-esteem. And we're going to be talking a lot about that in chapter 2 coming up. So people need to feel like they're appreciated, like they're smart. I mean, you do. You like to hear good things from teachers in emails or on your assignments that you submit. You want positive feedback so that it helps you feel good about yourself. It also helps to not only appeal to your ego, but it raises your self-esteem. It enables you to have a good self-perception of yourself so that when you do interact with others or with that person again, you're doing it with a high degree of confidence. Okay? Oftentimes, people will use this as a tactic, and they'll say things, hopefully genuinely, and not just bullshitting, and they'll say something like, man, you are so good at writing papers. I need help. Can you just help me get started? If you could help me do the brainstorm and get my ideas organized, I can take it from there. But you're just so good at it. So I really can. Or, my car needs to have the oil changed. I could go pay and have it done. But, oh my gosh, you're in the automotive program. Won't you do it for me? Because you're so obviously good at it. And I would really, really appreciate it because you're so smart. Okay? That's what these are all about. So, does it sound like we do some manipulating in our conversations? Okay, right about now you should be saying yes. All right. What this is, however, when it's done with a good heart, right? Not so much this, but here, etc. And sometimes even the threat, if you're out past curfew, as a parent to a young child, to a middle schooler or even a young high schooler, you're out too late on curfew, you've done it 5 times in a row, you need to be taught a lesson. I can't just let you keep on doing this because I love you and I care about you. And this is what the example of tough love. So I'm going to have to ground you until you can prove that you can abide by your curfew. So we're going to give it a week. Right? So if it's done out of love, a mutual desire to have a healthy, happy, respectful, satisfying relationship with the other person, then this can be good because you're doing it complementarily. You're doing it back and forth. You're not only one taking, you're also giving. Okay? So in that case, then it's how we get along. It's how we just get along in the world. Okay? But if you're doing this totally as a manipulation, totally for your own self-interest, regardless of anybody else, some of these can actually translate into what's known as being a bully, because then they are manipulation. And that's something that we don't want, either as colleagues working at the same place or students in a classroom working on a project, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see the value of why this is important. If this one turns into true harm, physical or mental harm, then it crosses the line and it becomes coercion. And that's just not right. It's not just, that's not fair. And that's even gone beyond being a bully. That's being sadistic, wanting to see other people hurt and harmed, with the sole intent of helping yourself at all cost. Those are bullies. All those sharks. You'll find out about them later. All right. So any questions about these strategies? There'll be test questions. Okay. Now, I want you all to take notes. I want you to actually write on a piece of paper what I'm going to write on the board next. So pull out a piece of paper. Pull this out. So now I'm going to talk about the communication maxims. A maxim is defined as a statement, a claim, that people pretty much regard as being truthful. It's established, it's observed, it is established and observed for a long period of time. It is accepted by people within that discipline. All right, so these are communication maxims. So the scholars in communication believe in these. And to some extreme extent, they're also self-evidently true. All right, these are going to be ones you're like, yeah, but I want us to go deeper than that. So maxim number one, and they all start with calm. Communication is intentional and unintentional. Right? So right now, write down what you think that means in a phrase or a sentence, right next to what you wrote there. What do you think that means? It can be both, intentional and unintentional. All right? Now, I want somebody, based on the definition that you wrote, to tell me an example in your life when it was unintentional. You said something and there was a response or a consequence to it that was not what you wanted to have happen. Okay? Somebody? Speak out really loud.
When a nonverbal aspect, like you said, contradicts the verbal aspect?
Yes, that's a great example. Okay, yes. So when the nonverbal contradicts the verbal, oh my gosh, that's when we have lots and lots of different kinds of problems and issues. So what happened?
If you're lying about something and your body language obviously indicates that you're not telling the truth.
Okay, very good. All right. So, yep. So it might be intentional and unintentional. And yes, good old body language. Okay, good. Now I'm going to write the next one. And what I want you to do is, again, after I write it down, I want you to define it and what you think it means. So communication is both conscious and unconscious. So what do you think it means? Now, I'd like for somebody to try and think of an example when your communication was unconscious, that does not involve body language this time. Something that you actually said or physically did that was unconscious, that was not body language or words. All right, you guys gotta be quiet on this one. Let me give an example of this. This is often an example of implicit bias. In a talk I gave to faculty before our semester began, I talked about some of my implicit biases that I have been discovering over the summer with a journal project that I did with a book called Be the Bridge. And it's a faith-based journey for white people to recognize when we are when we are stereotyping, or we are discounting, or we are dismissing other people who are different from us. And it's been a really good journey for me because I'm trying to become an authentic ally to a number of different people who are not white, who are marginalized. So whether it's a Black or brown community, or it's the LGBTQ community, etc. So here is an example. Consciously, I had a student who requested to have the pronoun they and them used to refer to that person all the time. I acknowledge that. I even asked if that's something ahead of time, as I did for the questionnaire that some of you filled out. And once I received that, I said, yes, I'm going to make a commitment to do that. So what's interesting is that my unconscious still saw a particular sex. This person wanted to be identified as gender neutral. I consciously would say they or them when I had it top of mind. Well, when I was in a hurry, or I was just being mindless, thoughtless, white, I would unconsciously refer to the person as she. Discounting the desire for that person to be what they were asking for identity. So that's an example. Unconsciously, I could not get past this. I couldn't get past it so that I could respectfully, consciously do this. And by me talking about this to my classes and to my colleagues, I'm, this confession of sorts, it's helping me to stand up and to be a better person, because now I'm able to do it far more consciously, to be mindful. Okay? Okay, here's another one. Communication is irreversible. Write that down and basically say what that means. Define it. Okay? So what does it mean? This is going to be sort of a no duh also, but what do you think? How many of you have said, no, what I meant to say is this. No, you took me all wrong. That's not what I meant to say. No, those weren't the exact words. I said something like this. Or, oh, I'm going to take it back. I take it back. I take it back. I did not mean it. I did not mean to say what I just said. I apologize. I take it back. I take it back. Well, you can't. Because once it's out there, it's irreversible. So be careful. Social media, especially. All right, now this one I want you to really think about. It is not repeatable. And I'm going to be quiet until you guys tell me what does that mean, and think if you can think of an example. So I'm going to make you squirm. It's going to be uncomfortable. So define it on your paper, and then somebody shout out what that means. Give me an example. Not repeatable. This one's a little hard. Do you want me to call on somebody? Savion.
Now,
So what does that mean? That communication is not repeatable.
that you shouldn't repeat it again, or not like exactly sure what you asked.
Okay, it's irreversible, which is why you don't want to repeat it again, especially if it was hurtful. Okay, so there's a little piece of there. Let's see, can Charles help him out?
If a certain communication is tied to an event, can't repeat it.
Yes. So what, good, very good. So communication is tied, connected to particular events. So what is it that cannot be repeated, or what are the elements that can't be repeated? You're absolutely on the right track. Because we can videotape an event, right? Denise Zepeda. So what is it that can't be repeated?
I guess like the initial reaction.
Yes, yes, yes. So in the initial reaction, that's pretty much, that's in your heart, isn't it?
Sure.
Sure, okay. So that's your feeling. That's the feeling. So if you, for those of you who might be married or engaged, the moment you proposed or the moment that somebody proposed marriage to you, that feeling, that rush, that emotion is so intense and so wonderful and so, etc. It can't be repeated, not with the exact same person. You may have gotten it on video and you can watch it, but the experience can't be repeated. Okay? Even those women who have given birth to babies, every time you've given a birth to the baby, oh my gosh, what an experience. But they're different for every child. That experience is just so special and so different. Okay? So that's what we mean by it can't be repeated. So, make them count. Make the moments count is what that really boils down to. The other one is that communication is guided by rules and norms. So what does that mean? Define that. What's a rule about communication, or what's a norm? If somebody says hi to you, what's the response? Come on, yeah. Megan.
To say hi back.
Okay, exactly. Okay, but you know, it's always fun to watch our young men on our campus because as they're walking by somebody and they're saying, you know, hi to somebody, then culturally, the norm, and you guys know this, they're doing the, right? Did you see my head? Everybody is stuff. You know, walk by and the other person's going, right? Okay, that's a norm, that's a rule. If you don't respond, you're dissing the person. Oh my gosh. Okay, so there are rules and expectations. Those are the obvious, and there's a whole lot more. In the South, the norm is to respond with yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. You don't do that in California. Okay, you just don't. You don't know if it's a sir or a ma'am anyway, and that could be offensive. Okay. Now, here is the final thing I'm going to say. And I'm going to challenge you on this one. A very famous researcher named Paul Watzlawick, with a W, Watzlawick, all right, at Stanford University in the Palo Alto group, coined this phrase: you cannot not communicate. So let me ask you a question. If you're dead and you're laying in a casket that's open or maybe even closed, are you communicating to other people? Somebody want to take a guess? Okay, do this. Raise your hand. How many of you say, yes, a dead body is still communicating? Raise your hand. That dead body is communicating a lot. That dead body is saying, I am dead. That's some major nonverbal communication, right? Okay, let me ask you another one. When you are sleeping, are you, show of hands, are you not communicating or are you communicating? How many of you say you are not communicating? Okay, so communicating even when you are asleep, you are sending communication signals to your brain, actually even through your body. You are communicating when you're in a coma, which is why it's so controversial on whether or not to pull a plug on somebody. You are communicating, you know, they say the person is brain dead. The question is, really? Right? So you cannot not communicate is profound. Just by your silence today, you are communicating to me loud and clearly, Ms. K, I don't want to participate. Please don't call me. Well, I'm going to be calling on you guys. Okay. Because this is how we get some interaction. Okay. Now, next class is going to be amazing. So let me give you a preview, and this is why your communication is going to be really, really valuable. Actually, the whole next chapter is going to be pretty fun. Okay, you are going to do a journey of self-reflection, and analysis, right? And we're going to do that in a couple of ways. So we're going to do an activity in class about UR. We're going to do another activity in class, not next week, next class, but through this whole module, called a Johari window, where you're going to get some feedback about yourself. We're going to take, maybe not in this order, the Myers-Briggs type indicator, self-identification of your primary personality, and if interested, it's actually an extra thing if you want to do it, you can do what's called an Enneagram. I've been doing a lot of studying on this recently. We are also going to look at concepts considered the looking glass self, and how do you see yourself in that looking glass. And all of these are going to be very helpful in preparation for the videos and the discussion forums. I will also be sending you some emails of videos that I want you to watch before class. Some of those videos you will naturally do if you select one of those assignments in the journals or discussion forums, and if you don't select it, I'm still going to be sending it to you to do. So that's our class today. Do we have any questions? Any comments? All right. Don't forget your quizzes. Don't forget to watch the video lessons. I saw some of you have taken the pre-test for chapter 1. So some of you need to read the book a little bit more closely, and or you need to make sure that you are in watching the videos. All right, have a good one, you guys. I'll leave it up in case somebody wants to come up and ask me a question.